Welcome to my channel. This video here is my 100th video, and it's the first video that's not a faceless video. If you go through most of my videos, there's a lot of shorts that are meant to be entertaining and just kind of showing people a perspective of what it's like to be on a construction site, operating cranes, or just walking around the city taking pictures or short videos. In fact, I got started taking photos of different cranes, posting them on LinkedIn, sharing stories about the projects, etc. In fact, this green screen that I'm using here, I took this photo in Cherry Creek, Colorado, so probably around 2014 or 2015. I would believe that's when that photo was taken. Anyway, I was filling in on a tower crane that day, and if you look at the picture and you know anything about cranes, over my shoulder there, that's a Pioneer, and then there's a couple of Potains. I'm talking about this shoulder here. Straight above me there, that's the Liebherr that I was actually operating. And then the one over this way, that's another Potain, but a different model. This one here being a Hammerhead. The two back here, flat tops, and another Hammerhead, the Pioneer. And that photo actually represents 4 different rental companies' assets there in the air. So how did I get involved in tower cranes? That's a good question. I get that question quite often. So I read an article in my 20s. I was living in Hawaii, and it was an interview between the tower crane operator, the reporter was there, and a bunch of little kids. The kids were there for go to work with their dad day. So basically this kid had a father who was a tower crane operator, and the reporter came there with the teacher and the students, and they asked the guy questions. I believe it was via radio. The guy was in the seat talking to the kids on the ground on the construction site while he was working. So anyway, I read that article, and it kind of piqued my interest in cranes, specifically tower cranes. And it would be 15 years later before I actually pursued operating cranes as a career. I left Hawaii, and I moved back to the mainland. That's what we call the lower 48. If you live in Hawaii, the mainland is anything from California east and upwards and down, whatever. So anyway, I moved back to the mainland, got involved in trucking. I was a team driver with my wife for years. We drove, we did the 48 states and Canada, hauling all kinds of freight, refrigerated freight. We hauled dry goods, and we were everywhere. One day I may be in Miami, and a couple days later I may be in Seattle or in Canada. And we were in all the major cities: Chicago, New York, Boston, LA, Portland, Seattle on the West Coast, and at the border in Laredo, hauling stuff out of there. So we were everywhere. And so after years of trucking, and wanting to be kind of closer to the house and not always on the road, I got a job as a local truck driver, and was driving dump trucks for a company that had an aggregate pit. So they were doing concrete and different things like that. So we ended up, fast forward, I trained to be a concrete mixer driver with that company. And I was hauling concrete to construction sites up in the mountains of Colorado. So we were kind of not in the city, and there was a shortage of labor up there at the time. I met a crane operator. He was operating a Grove rough terrain. I had operated forklifts previously. And the story was they got a bigger crawler crane coming into this job. It was really close to my house. And basically, with my experience driving trucks, operating forklifts, the operator took a chance that he could get me up to speed on the rough terrain. And then once the crawler crane came on site, he would take that over. So I got into this crane. Well, first of all, I was running the forklift on the job site, moving material around and stuff. And like I said, I had some construction experience prior to that, as well as the logistics and the trucking background. Basically, a construction site's a big logistics site if you really think about it. And the cranes involved are involved in this huge logistical project. You bring all the material in, and you move them around, and then the next you know, when you're done moving all this stuff 100 times, there's a building sitting there. And it's all about logistics. And the crane is, especially the tower crane, it's like the heart of the job. And if that's beating and everything's moving smoothly, you have a successful project. So anyway, I operated rough terrains for a good year, and then was on a job site in a rough terrain, and there was a tower crane being built. The tower crane operator, the guy who was supposed to operate the crane, he showed up one day while we were erecting the crane. We had just started the erection process. I'd unloaded all the components. We put the components together on the ground. We left space for the large hydraulic to set up. And this guy rolls into the site in a company truck, and he stumbled out drunk. I kid you not. It was actually kind of surreal. And the boss took his keys and told him to give him he said, hey, go home, sleep it off, and give me a call. That guy walked out the job site, went right down Larimer Street in Denver, and headed off into the sunset, and I have no idea whatever happened to him. I kid you not. Don't know. Never heard from him. As I got more involved in the crane world there, nobody knew who the guy was, really. It was kind of an interesting story because it's a small world and people know each other. So anyway, we're on this site. I'm the only crane operator on the site. I have no licenses whatsoever because they didn't exist. I mean, they existed. Most of the people I knew did not have a crane license. They were like me. They came up in the trade and learned on the job. So here I am. Got about a year's experience running rough terrain hydraulic cranes. We're trying to put this crane together. The other cat left, and I look at the boss. He's the owner of the company's there. He's helping us put the crane together, and I'm like, so who the hell's going to run this thing? And he looks at me and he's like, well, can you do it? I'm like, well, yeah, I'll do it. So I kind of jumped out of the frying pan into the fire and volunteered to climb up this rig and actually operate it. So anyway, we stack the tower, we throw up the slew ring with the cab, and they go, hey, Tim, climb that baby there. So I go up it, and I get up there, and I'd met the technician on the ground. He was a really cool cat named Tex McCoy, and people watching this video that had anything to do with cranes back in the day in Denver would know who Tex is. He's since passed away, but he was kind of an icon in the industry, a real character. He had all kinds of great jokes and stuff, and if you were thin-skinned, he probably would offend you with his jokes. Really, really neat guy. But he had started out as an electrician and got into the tower crane side of stuff. So anyway, I get up there. I'm with Tex, and he swings this rig around and counter swings it and kind of shows me what it'll do. And we spent a day or so up there. We got it inspected. We got a third-party inspection. And he's like, all right, bro, it's yours. And before he left, he pointed across the street. There was a Potane sitting over there. There was a guy in that crane. His name was Reggie. And Tex says, hey, if you got any questions, call that guy. So I knew I could call that guy. And the guy who had taught me how to run the RTs had quite a bit of tower crane experience too. So those were my two go-to guys that if I need any questions answered, I'd give them a call. And so from that point on, it was all about me just running that baby and getting it done. This crane over here, it's a Pioneer. I think that's a 415. That was my first crane, was a Pioneer 415 Hammerhead. And it was a great crane. It was brand new. But it was intimidating at first. I'll be honest with you. The crane had 246 foot of jib. If you don't know the terminology, that's the boom is what it's called on most cranes, but on a tower crane it's a jib. So anyway, the jib's out here, 246 feet to the tip. And I could reach almost an entire city block. And we were building this small mid-rise, but there was a lot of activity and we were really busy. So anyway, I kind of just got thrown into it. And this was in 2007. And there was no federal license requirements. You didn't have a plethora of schools you could go to. The union apprenticeship existed, and most of the guys that I knew that actually had licenses had gone through the union apprenticeship. So I became friends with a lot of the union cats there in Denver, and I applied for membership once I did get licensed, which was a while later. I got my first license was the tower crane N60CO, and that again, it was just the company wanted us to get it. We had like 5 or 6 guys working for the company, and nobody had a license, and then their insurance company kind of demanded it, I would say. So we had to buck up, and we did some training within the company. There was a guy there who was actually a certified instructor that took us through the program. And then years later, I added the large hydraulic license, which was a blessing because at that point, it was becoming more and more of a requirement. So I operated, I'd say, about 6 years non-union. And then during that period of time, I applied a couple times to the operating engineers. This was around the time of the 2008 recession, so there wasn't a lot of opportunity to get in. When the economy's slow, it's tough to make a transition like that, and actually because they just didn't have the jobs, they didn't have the work. But eventually, after things had turned around, they were real busy in Colorado, and I actually got an invitation to come into the operating engineer. So been union now for over 10 years, and been doing this stuff for about 18 years. The vast majority of my experience is in these rigs right here behind us. When things would be slow, which that's construction, because you have like boom and bust cycles. Usually during the bust cycles, if I needed some cash, I'd go out of town. Went to like Montana, went up to North Dakota, and even I didn't have to go, but in Denver, in between my normal type of work that I'd be doing, I actually did some they're called refinery turnarounds, and added the crawler license too. So in my experience, my journey was through the on-the-job training. And if you're looking specifically at this video and you're curious about how to become a crane operator, just hit the comments, ask me questions, kind of fill me in a little bit about where you're at. I may be able to help you with that. I don't mind doing that because there are people that helped me come up into the trade. Or if you have questions about the difference between union and non-union, if how do you get into a union, etc. How do you get a license? Because you have to have licenses for different states. It can be quite complex, the whole process. So that's kind of my story of how I got into this. If you're interested in furthering the conversation, hit me up in the comments. I'd also would appreciate subscriptions. If you want to subscribe to my channel, please do, because I plan on doing more of these types of videos where I just kind of tell some stories from an insider in the industry and what my experience has been. And hit the like button, and hope to see you further along on the journey. This is my 100th video, and it's the first video that's not a faceless video. I've been doing a bunch of shorts. Some of those shorts I recently shot in the past few months. Some of them are really old, but please subscribe. Go check out my shorts. They're just kind of fun, entertaining videos. I have cranes in there. I got a lobster boat in there. I got a schooner, some trains, an old panel truck, some semi-trucks, but mostly crane stuff. And it's more on the entertainment side. And yeah, please check those out. And I appreciate you listening to me if you stay for the whole video. And y'all keep it real. Thank you.